Aviptadil quickens recovery of critically ill COVID-19 patients. Biotechnology company Relief Therapeutics and pharmaceutical firm NeuroRx develop a new drug for COVID-19. It is called RLF-100, designed to address acute respiratory distress syndrome among critically ill COVID-19 patients. The fast-track designation was due to promising results. According to Reuters, the drug's active ingredient is a synthetic version of a natural peptide, which protects the lungs. Doctors at Houston Methodist Hospital reported the first success of RLF-100. A 54-year-old male who was treated for double lung transplant rejection developed COVID-19. The patient had to be mechanically ventilated when their condition declined. Doctors administered the experimental drug based on the indication. Within 4 days in RLF-100, the patient's condition quickly improved and doctors had to remove the ventilator. The same outcome was observed in 15 other patients treated under emergency use. The effect of the experimental drug was also observed in lab settings. Independent researchers in Brazil found it could block the replication of SARS-CoV-2 in human immune and lung cells. Jonathan Javitt, CEO of NeuroRx, said, "No other antiviral agent has demonstrated rapid recovery from viral infection and demonstrated laboratory inhibition of viral replication." According to Relief, ARDS is a life-threatening complication of COVID-19. Despite being rare in cases, it has been reported in thousands of COVID-19 patients. And due to the lack of effective treatments, about 50% of COVID-19 patients with ARDS die. COVID-19-related ARDS presents highly expressions of inflammatory cytokines, which causes cytokine storm. SARS-CoV-2 attacks the type of alveolar cells in the lungs. These cells prevent the alveoli from collapsing, but the viral attacks induce two events. First, the virus kills the cells when new copies are released. This effectively impairs lung function. And second, SARS-CoV-2 alters the angiotensin II conversion that raises blood pressure and cytokine production. This increases inflammation in the lungs. The experimental drug addresses both events by inhibiting viral replication and limiting inflammation. RLF-100 or Aviptadil is being tested into Phase 2b of 3 clinical trials. One of those involves patients with COVID-19-associated ARDS. These patients receive intubation or mechanical ventilation. They also receive either placebo or Aviptadil with doses ranging from 50 to 100 picomole per kilogram per hour for 12 hours. The other trial involves patients with non-acute lung injury due to COVID-19. Patients receive either inhalable Aviptadil, standard inhalation treatment, or placebo.
HFD Captain Tommy Searcy's condition has actually worsened since we first told you that he was in the hospital, but soon he'll be treated with an experimental drug. Our Roseanne Aragon is live at HFD headquarters tonight. And Roseanne, he has a lot of support. In fact, firefighters even picked up that drug and they drove it to the hospital for him.
Yes, that is exactly right. The support for this beloved captain has no limits. His team is doing everything they can to help Captain Tommy Searcy and his family.
In times of need, firefighters are there. And for 17 years and counting, Captain Tommy Searcy has served Houston. Fighting the pandemic, Searcy got COVID. He's now at Memorial Hermann in the Woodlands, fighting for his life.
We have a saying, whatever it takes, and we mean it.
With few options, Houston Professional Firefighters Association President Marty Langton fought to bring his friend and colleague another option, an experimental drug being used here in Houston.
The challenge was to get through all of the red tape, get everybody on the same page.
The maker NeuroRx is doing trials, but at Houston Methodist.
We needed what was called a humanitarian access.
He needed all parties to approve. After hours of communication, they all did. And at 5:30 Tuesday morning, Langton and a team, including an escort, drove the drug to the Woodlands.
At 7:28 this morning, the drug that nobody thought he'd at least be able to try made it.
Now,
we want to ask for the community to pray for Captain Searcy.
Powerful words.
The department has buried 2 firefighters already. I really don't want to bury a third.
And they believe in the power of prayer.
The fact that it came together was, I believe, a miracle in and of itself.
Now, the entire department says they will do whatever they can to make sure the family is comfortable during this difficult time. They do believe that prayer helps, and they're asking everyone to help them with that. Reporting live downtown, Roseanne Aragon, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
Roseanne, thank you. We do have some.
Firefighters never have a particularly easy fight on their hands, but this one is particularly emotional. The Houston Fire Department has already lost 2 Houston firefighters in the last 4 weeks to COVID. Now a third is fighting for his life inside an ICU at Memorial Hermann, the Woodlands. Tommy Searcy was in the ICU last week when the fire union put out word asking for prayers. Now they are asking for even more, the use of an experimental drug called RLF-100 made by a company called NeuroRx out of Delaware. The company says the drug has shown promise treating some of the conditions that COVID creates inside people's lungs, and that Searcy's team thinks is what he needs. At this point, Searcy is on a ventilator. He's also using an ECMO machine, which scrubs his blood for toxins. They are hoping that this may be able to be approved before it gets too late.
Number one, we want everybody to continue their prayers. Please don't stop. But importantly right now is that we need a drug that is in an experimental phase to be delivered so that they can use it in trying to treat Captain Searcy. Time is not on our side, and we are going to do everything it takes. I don't care how long it takes to get somebody to move. We just need to ensure that we give Captain Searcy the best chance to continue to fight this. You've got the Houston Fire Department family, more importantly, Captain Searcy's family. We need this. We need this to happen now. And we hope that everybody gets this drug over today so that we can start to see some improvement.
From best we can tell, everyone on Searcy's team agrees that this may be worth trying. They seem to be out of options, but it is not an easy process to get an experimental drug approved for a patient. It seems that there is some paperwork that needs to get sent between here and Delaware before all of that can be approved. But once that's done, everyone involved says they are willing to help and do anything they can.
Now, in recent weeks, a lot of attention has been paid to HCQ, a common malaria drug that could be a possible treatment for COVID-19. But the U.S. FDA is now approving another drug for advanced testing against the coronavirus disease. It's called Aviptadil, created in part by the U.S. Israeli pharmaceutical company NeuroRx. And joining us with the details is the company's CEO, Professor Jonathan Javid. So your company has already filed for a large clinical trial with FDA and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to treat coronavirus complications. What is this drug? Can you break it down in layman's terms, in terms of how it's supposed to improve the conditions of coronavirus patients?
Absolutely. So Aviptadil is a fancy name for a natural substance that's produced in the body called vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. And this natural substance, which is made primarily in the intestine, but is concentrated in the lung, is nature's way of protecting the lung against attack from inflammatory molecules called cytokines. Mm-hmm. And those cytokines are the molecules that cause the fatal pneumonia in COVID-19 infection. So nobody dies of the virus. The virus can just be a bad cold. But if it goes to the lung and mounts a cytokine attack on the lung, it's lethal.
Understood. Okay, so this drug can help treat that issue. I understand that a version of it is actually already being marketed for a completely different need. What is that need, and how did you figure out that it could also help corona-caused lung complications?
Well, I didn't figure it out. It is true that Aviptadil is used for erectile dysfunction in parts of Europe, and that's because the body uses different molecular receptor, or uses the same molecular receptor in different organs for different things. It happens that the leading drug for high pressure in the lungs, pulmonary hypertension, is the same molecule as is used in Viagra. So this isn't the first time where there's crossover. This discovery was made by Dr. Sami Saeed in about 2000 that this drug could be very potent for acute respiratory distress syndrome.
Right.
And then the discovery was lost, and it was rediscovered only a few weeks ago by Dr. Yves Sagot in Geneva, Switzerland, who was looking at an old pharmaceutical file and realized what he was seeing, couldn't believe his eyes.
So when are clinical trials beginning?
We expect that within a few hours, the drug will arrive at Ben Gurion Airport and will be on its way to Rambam Healthcare Campus. We expect to be able to begin compassionate care by next week in Israel. And we expect that we'll be announcing the first U.S. study sites by the end of this week.
So when will it come out to the public?
Well, if you're saying when will it be a released drug, of course, it has to prove that it is safe and effective. We know it's safe. Now we have to prove it's effective. And, in the best scenario, we could have an answer within 3 months about whether this drug prevents death in patients who have acute respiratory distress in COVID-19.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Very interesting and a positive update. So I hope that this works out.
Thank you.
As the work continues to find a vaccine for COVID-19, researchers at the University of Miami Health System are hopeful a new clinical trial may lead to better treatment of the disease.
Our greatest hope is that this shows the effectiveness of preventing cytokine storm, and we are looking at people getting off ventilators.
Cytokine storm is a reaction in the lungs that can cause death in patients with the novel coronavirus. Dr. Dushantha Jayavira leads a clinical trial at UHealth, testing a drug called Aviptadil that could help control this reaction in intubated patients.
That using the drug, we may be able to stop these catastrophic changes and death happening with COVID-19.
According to Dr. Jayavira, the drug has been widely studied and is considered safe for treating some chronic pulmonary diseases.
One of the advantages of Aviptadil in preventing the cytokine storm is that it does not suppress the immune system.
In this double-blind, randomized trial, some patients receive the drug while others receive a placebo to help ensure unbiased results.
This comes naturally to UHealth because that's our mission, to bring research, share it with the people, but do it in the most ethical and scientific, rigorous way. Our hope is actually to make our community healthy. That's our hope.